Namaskar and greetings to the chair, the members of the organizing committee, and all the members of the audience who have joined here from various parts of the globe. My name is Diljeet Kaur Verma, and I join here from University of Delhi, India. And the topic for my presentation is When the Mind Plays Games, Exploring Vedic Philosophy to Manage the Mind. Just give me a second. Yeah. So this is the roadmap that we would be following, starting from the introduction to the research objective, methodology, the frameworks, and then moving on to analysis, discussions, and conclusions. So the mind, human mind, is a very fascinating and complex part of the human body. But it has been over the past few years and decades, it has been seen that it has been causing issues related to stress, anxiety, and depression. And this is affecting not just adults, but also adolescents. And this has an impact upon the healthcare systems that are there to take care of societal well-being. And this has been specifically noted after the COVID pandemic. And of increase has also been seen in the developed world as compared to few smaller countries such as Bhutan. So when we are talking about looking at the mental health of people, it is not just a medicine perspective that becomes important, because when we are understanding the psychology of people, then more than science, the philosophy and the psychology also is more important. Mental health disorders, it is important to note that they first start emerging, it could even be in childhood or adolescence, as per the Harvard Medical School. And as a result, in the context of all of these developments taking place in recent times, the Lancet Psychiatry has been asking and looking for recommendations for actionable insights in order to handle this uh, new mental health pandemic that has started over the years. So our main objective is to explore the philosophy of the Vedas for managing stress in modern everyday life. And this has implications for the prevention and management of psychological challenges. So the methodology that we follow, this is a conceptual, qualitative, theory-driven methodology. We use the SOR theory, stimulus, organism, response theory, Vedic philosophy, and we use this as a basis for our narrative analysis, in which we use one English series and three award-winning Hindi classic movies. These have been purposefully selected, they are critically acclaimed, and they bear thematic relevance to various mental health issues. And most important, these are inspired from real life incidents and span different time periods. The theoretical framework which we use is one is the stimulus organism response theory. There is an organism, say, such as a human being, and it has various stimuli interacting with the organism, the human being, and impacting along with the personality. And in today's time, we can also say that the internet is also an important part of the stimulus. And the organism processes it, and there are certain behavioral responses. The Vedic philosophy talks about the external senses passing information to the internal senses, to the Ahamkāra, or the manas, mind of the person, consisting of Buddhi, manas, Ahamkāra, and chitta. And these all combine with the gunas and the chitta vrittis, which lead to certain mind responses, which can be either rag or dvesh, attachment and aversion. So we take a look at this and we design a stimulus manas response model, which takes a deeper look into the human being or the organism, the black box inside the organism, which is processing all of this. So various levels inside the Ahamkāra, lots of processing, lots of interactions taking place. And between the manas, buddhi, ahamkāra, chitta, chittavrittis, gunas, and this is a very, very complicated process. If managed well, it leads to happiness. If these processes, mental processes, are not managed well, they can lead to certain amount of despair and distress for people. So we move on to the analysis and discussion. So these are the cases that we have picked up from various movies. So we'll start by looking at each of these one by one. So current psychological issues are reflected in these media, and we will try to gain some of the wisdom from our ancient texts, our ancient sages who have been guiding us through all of these ages. So the first case that we pick up is from the TV series, which is Adolescence. It is a psychological based story, and it talks about a 13-year-old kid who has been accused of murdering his schoolmate, and this has been based on many real life incidents. So this series, it explores issues related to stress, which have been induced due to social media, emotional mismanagement, and dysregulation of the emotions inside the person over here, this child, and all of which leads to behavioral responses which are very, very impulsive and very, very destructive. So we see over here that a lot of anxiety cycles are being produced through rajas and tamas tendencies in the absence of proper guidance and proper support, which can help in managing the information, the stimuli which has been received, and the processes that take place inside the black box of the human mind over here. The next case is also a similar case of an adolescent young boy, and he is extremely devastated. He failed an engineering exam, and he takes the extreme action, extreme step of attempting suicide. So this case study, this movie explores ego-driven fear of failure, because there is an identity, the person is trying to create an identity for himself in society. And he is now very, very fearful of the social comparison and the stigma that will now arise because he was not able to get into one of the most prestigious engineering institutes in the country. And this is a stress which is shared by hundreds of thousands of students every year. So this shows the unchecked thinking and the thinking thought waves, the chitta vrittis, which intensify the mental distress. However, the movie also takes this one step further from this problem, and it shows how Buddhi inspired transition and suggestions and solutions and a different way of looking at the situation and managing the distressful emotions which have arisen. It leads from avidya to vidya. Similarly, we have this very classic movie, Anand. It is the emotional story of a terminally ill person, and it talks about the fear of mortality. And again, in this case, the buddhi-guided responses of emotional acceptance of the situation, it leads to finding enduring peace and even inspires people who are around him to accept this change. And then we have the very classic movie Do Aankhein Barahat, where a young jail warden, he rehabilitates 6 dangerous prisoners who have taken to a life of crime. So it talks about psychological conditioning based on various kinds of trauma that they have come across and which led them to adoption of crime. But through guidance, and discipline, and including spiritual guidance, prayers, and also social connections, hard work, ethical living, all of these lead to a reformation and the change in thinking of these prisoners. And at the end of it, they have become so aware that the self-consciousness, when they look at the sky and they can see the eyes of their mentor, and they see it as their inner consciousness which is now guiding them. So these discussions and this analysis has practical implications for interventions, for designing interventions and for society's well-being. So we can look at a two-pronged approach based on text, based on the Vedas. So one is the prerequisites. The person needs to have some faith in the entire process and faith in himself that he will be able to do it, and also to putting in virya or effort into actually taking the steps required. So what are the steps required? So then we move ahead to the strategy. So the strategy talks about a two-step strategy where the first step, we regulate the stimuli all around us. So, for example, unchecked hours and hours of social media scrolling, the person or the adolescent or the child needs to reduce that now over a period of time. And then control the manas and control the emotions that are arising in the mind of that person. So just like the Rig Veda says, may we hear with our eyes, ears what is auspicious, may we see with our eyes what is holy. So it is talking about managing the stimuli. And also Bhagavad Gita talks about developing spiritual strength to handle the problems. And in order to develop such kind of a wisdom or intellect, cinema and storytelling can be used as a counter medium in today's time, where especially the young children, they spend a lot of time on social media, on various types of media. And we can combine cinematic excellence with these age-old wisdom to come up with certain excellent visual cinematic experiences for people, including children and adolescents. And this aligns with the storytelling approach, which has been a part of the Indian culture, such as through the Panchatantra. So we conclude, we talked about various theories which helped us, and the Vedic psychology, which combines with this, and taking the help of narrative media to understand and analyze how a Vedic psychology of the mind through the ages can help us to handle various mental health issues which are tormenting our adolescents, and not just adolescents, but various people at various ages in society, leading to resilience and mental well-being for them and also for society as a whole. So thank you so much. And this is all that I wanted to share. Thank you so much. Namaskar.